Chapter 17, The Method of a Lesson, Part 2. A renewing vision and philosophy of education must lead to an applied method. Charlotte Mason's 5-step method of a lesson. First, a well-chosen book. Second, the first little talk. Third, an episode is read. Fourth, the episode is narrated. Fifth, the second little talk and student response. Reading an episode. Normally one scene in length. In literature, 2 or 3 pages. Length tailored to the complexity of text and capacity of students. Enough content to convey an idea.
Kayla, can you keep your eyes on the story? Your attention focused. Mozart smiled a welcome to the strange young man in rough clothing, with his black, bushy hair standing on end. So, you are Ludwig Beethoven. Yes, sir. I have come from Bonn to play for you, sir. Very well, young man. Now then, let me see what you can do.
Let's read paragraph by paragraph. Keep in mind that you need to read at a good pace, with good expression as we go. Emily, start us off, please.
On the evening of the 10th day, they fought their way clear of Sandra Strait and anchored. Prince called Nat to his cabin. He had a chart spread before him. "Well, Mr. Bowditch," he growled, "what do you think of the Dutch East Indies?"
All right, let's read it again all together, thinking about what does this mean? What is it saying here? Ready? Begin.
Sweet and low, wind of the western sea. Low, low, breathe and blow, wind of the western sea.
If you would listen, and then we're going to do a written narration over the next 3 paragraphs. Page 125. FDR's idea was to build a great dam on the Tennessee River. This would protect against floods.
Narration. Telling back what has just been read, seen, or heard. Not a summary or exposition. Use of author's language. Recounting in sequence with detail. Oral or written. Cultivates the habit of attention.
Narration is the act of telling back. It is part of the work of assimilating, of attending to a text.
And he kind of felt like he was going to really scream with joy.
Right, that's what the author said. Right, good. Abigail?
And finally he had lessons with Mozart. And he told him about his music.
And they saw another ship flying the Stars and Stripes, and when they got close to her, the master of the boat, Captain Riddle, hailed them and said, "How is it around the Horn?"
And it says that silver sails all out of the west. So maybe the father is sailing, and she's saying that she wants the wind to blow him to her again.
This system was called Social Security, and they aimed to make the people feel like they were secure. And following the Republican Roosevelt, FDR set up a grand plan for conservation. He made land conservation, which was made to conserve the soil so that farmers could keep working on it.
The second talk or response. Reflect upon what the author has said or what the artist or musician has created. Make use of new knowledge. Consider moral implications. Write a composition or create a visual representation of the lesson's object. Compare ideas.
So in a typical classroom, after narrating, we might say, "Tell us What have we learned about this character? What strikes you about the digestive tract of a bird? How do you see the artist using color in this painting to evoke certain emotions? Now, it's key to note that here the teacher is not giving away the answer. The teacher is not pre-digesting the ideas. Think of the mama bird who goes around gathering seeds, chews them up, and then spits it back into baby bird's mouth. That causes indigestion almost as badly as sawdust does when children are simply fed on that all day long. The children themselves must do the mental work. They must engage their minds. They must do the attending. They must do the reflecting. They must make use of the ideas.
In this method of a lesson, it's easy for the teacher to become the talkie-talkie teacher, we call it, where she begins to use her zeal and her enthusiasm for the subject and the things that she has been reading to now expound to the students. Did you see this? And what about this? And point out this and that. And we ask that the teachers just resist from doing that. Because as Charlotte Mason would say, each person has to do their own work. And they have to do the work of thinking. And so making these statements that are declarative and having them look to see what we see is not all inviting to the student. In fact, they put off what we see and what we point them to at times because we're too much with them. And so she would ask that we give a subtle approach, that we would use a subtle approach, that we would sow lightly. And so we might point them to, look in that last paragraph. What do you notice there, if indeed they need some more direction? But usually what we see is the children are all full of the ideas in the text. And so we let them do the work. We let them speak. And then we've seen the richness come forth. And the delight is extended outside the classroom as they engage in real learning, not just within our classroom walls, but in everyday life.
It is a mistake for the teacher to over-explain, give the punchline of the story, even if the teacher knows more or sees more than the student does. Of course, the teacher's got a lifetime of experience. We expect her to see more and know more. When a teacher says everything he sees, everything he knows, he is treating the child as if the child were some sort of blank slate on which he will record the truth. We must step back and create the space that allows the student to do his or her own digestion of the ideas that have been assimilated, come to his or her own conclusions. Now, it's not that we can use a text as some sort of a Rorschach test for free association. And a teacher might regularly ask, where did you see that in the text? Calling them back to the text. Because particularly the little ones, they can go all over the place. And we're constantly calling them back to the text. What did the author say? What did the author mean? But we keep them in that process. It's not about the teacher explaining it. In a sense, the teacher must be careful not to stand between the student and the author. It is not the teacher's job to be the interpreter of the author or artist or composer for the student. The teacher might provide the student with certain tools for understanding, might say, attend to the melody line, might say, look at the various colors. The teacher might tell the student where to place eye or ear. But it is not the teacher's job to stand between the text and the student. The student must have his or her own relationship with the text. That's the only way the student will be able to meet mind to mind and ideas will flourish. Having done the work of reflection, the mind then does the work of making use of the new ideas, of that which it has gained from the text. And so it composes perhaps a 5-paragraph essay, perhaps a diagram of that which was, or a drawing or a painting of that which was observed. It listens to the music and then gives a poetic description of what has been heard in the symphony. The mind makes use, and that's pretty much the rhythm of an academic day in a school that nourishes the mind and exercises the mind. We find wonderful living texts, rich in nourishing ideas. We find students attending to those texts, reflecting upon those texts, and then making use of the ideas gleaned from those texts.